school resource officer and school counselor. A school resource officer who is employed by the school district's police department is concerned about a student. He has observed the student hanging out with known gang members and has seen him out after curfew a number of times. The SRO asked the guidance counselor if she can share with him the student's attendance and disciplinary records, grades, home address, and phone number. He explains that he plans to go to the student's home and ask one or both of his parents to talk with him about how to help the student stay out of trouble. So here you have a guidance counselor who has a bunch of information that's governed by FERPA. The SRO wants this information because he wants to go approach the parents and come up with a plan to try to keep this kid from going deeper into trouble. All good things, all things that we support. At least I support it, I don't know. He's basically saying, I want this information so I can talk to the parents. This is clearly FERPA. Now, what's interesting about this scenario and why it's important to know, again, the question that I always go back to is what specific information does the requester want, is some of the information is considered directory information, okay? This information is listed in FERPA. FERPA has a specific regulation that says that schools are able to release to third parties directory information without getting parental authorization. Again, if they have in their annual notice to parents spelled out what directory information they're going to make available to the public, and that would include the sheriff's department or the DA, and they gave parents the option to opt out of allowing their children's directory information to be disclosed. The school has to do both, give the notice and give the parent the option to say, no, I don't want you to give my kid's name and address and so forth to anyone without my authorization. What DOE has said is that typically directory information can include, but it's not limited to, sort of the basics. It could be a name, an address and telephone number, a date and place of birth. It could be the dates that the child was enrolled in the school, what activities and sports they participated, and it can even include a photograph. All that information can be directory information, but the school is only allowed to give it if they've given that notice to parents and the parent has not opted out. So in this case, what you have, the SRO is asking for some information that actually falls under the realm of directory information. He asked for, going back again to the list, he wanted specifically home address and phone number. If the school in this scenario had complied with FERPA with the notification and opt-out, the guidance counselor could give him that information without getting parental consent. Similarly, with respect to the other records, here are a couple of things that could come into play. Again, the easiest thing is always for the guidance counselor to get the parental authorization, but there are some exceptions that may be in play here. One is if the school in its annual notice defines the SRO as having a legitimate interest, educational interest in school, in students' attendance and disciplinary records, the school could release that information to the SRO. But importantly, again, FERPA says the SRO, if they get that information under this exception, they wouldn't be able to re-release that information unless they had they complied with FERPA. They aren't able to send that information to the prosecutor's office. Let's say they get disciplinary information that has information about an offense that was committed against another student. They couldn't just send it to someone in the sheriff's department or the DA's office without getting consent according to FERPA. So again, this is why it goes down to knowing very specifically, especially when you're dealing with anything in school, specifically what information someone wants, to figure out whether or not it falls in the education record, and if it does fall in the education record, if one of the exceptions might apply.